Your pipeline has a single point of failure, and that single point of failure is you. Now, most founders hear that and think to themselves, well, okay, I need to hire a salesperson. And so they do. 3 months later, nothing has changed. The rep can't close and the founder jumps back in. They're exactly where they started, except now they're paying an extra $80K per year. There are really two ways this story ends. One is in a business that scales, and the other is a business with a founder who is still on every deal at 5 million ARR and wondering why growth feels impossible. The difference is not the hire, it's what comes before the hire. Here's the data that makes this concrete. At startups that have under $2 million per year in annual revenue, about 68% of that revenue comes directly from the founder's personal network. But by 10 million annual recurring revenue, that drops to 12% on average. Which sounds like progress, except that that transition can be really bumpy. The companies where it's smooth, it's because the founder has built a system around themselves to replace themselves. And the companies that haven't done that, they're the ones that are hitting a wall. That wall has a name. It's called founder sales ceiling. And for most B2B founders, it hits somewhere between 500K and 2 million annual recurring revenue. The research is pretty specific about what it costs you. Companies where the founder controls more than 60% of deals grow 2.3x slower than companies where they control less than 30% slower. Not marginally slower, 2.3 times slower. That's according to Pacific Crest Private SaaS survey. And the timeline matters too. System-driven companies reach 5 million ARR in roughly 24 months. Founder-dependent companies take 42 months. That's 18 months of growth left on the table, not because the product was worse or because the founder was not as smart, but really just because the infrastructure to replace them hadn't been built. Now, here's what I think is really most interesting about all of this. Founder win rates are actually really high, 60 to 70% on direct deals, according to Pacific Crest data. That conversion rate alone is evidence that the ICP and the value prop are working. So clearly, the challenge is not in most founders' ability to sell. It's actually just the knowledge inside the founder's head. What makes a good lead, why they buy, what they actually care about. These types of things are never getting internalized into something a system or a team can run. So what's the actual fix? Hi, I'm Lillian Pearson. I'm a fractional CMO and GTM engineer. I embed inside B2B tech startups like data and AI startups, as well as B2B SaaS startups. And what I do is I work to diagnose what's broken in their go-to-market and build the strategies and systems, the infrastructure that's needed to fix it. I've worked with over 100 companies on their marketing and growth strategies, so let me walk you through what actually works. Okay, so why does founder-led sales break? Well, it's not just because the founders are bad at it. We've established that they're actually really great at it. So it breaks for 3 structural reasons. First, the founder's network is finite and it depletes. Every deal comes from someone the founder knows or someone 1 degree removed. And of course, that list has an end. And most founders hit that end faster than they would expect, unfortunately. Secondly, the founder's time is finite and it's increasingly pulled in other directions. So at 500K ARR, you can be in every deal. But at 2 million ARR, being in every deal means that you are not building the product, you're not managing the team, you're not doing anything else that actually really needs you. And third, this is the one that actually kills the transition. The knowledge in the founder's head never gets externalized. The founder knows intuitively who is a good lead and why. They know which objections to handle and how. They know the 3 stories that build the most trust, and no one else does. That knowledge lives in 1 brain, and that brain can't be in 12 meetings a week forever. Jason Limkin, who's probably seen more of these transitions than anyone else on the planet, put it plainly. He said, you can't have a VP of sales before you have an engine, before you have a process. Really, that almost always means 2 reps hitting quota. That's it, 2 reps with a working process underneath them. Now that you have seen some of the core reasons why founder-led sales motions break, let's look at a few of the mistakes that occur when teams try to make the transition from founder-led sales to sales that happen without the founder. The 3 most common mistakes that I see And I want to be really specific here because these are expensive mistakes. So mistake 1 is hiring before building the system. This is the most common and the most costly mistake. Hiring a sales rep before you have a documented process, a clear ICP, a working pipeline source, well, it's just an expensive test on how long they'll wait before they leave. The hire really isn't the problem, but the sequencing on when to hire them, it is. Mistake number 2, hiring a big company VP of sales too early. There's certainly an archetype of impressive VP of sales, and founders love to recruit them. You know, the person that scaled a team at a Series C company. The problem is this person knows how to manage what already exists. They know how to drive an improvement from 1 to N. They probably don't know anything about how to go from 0 to 1, how to build from scratch. Hiring one at 3 million ARR is a bit like hiring a Formula 1 driver to teach someone to drive. The skill sets, they don't transfer. And mistake number 3 is the binary handoff. In some cases, the founder can go from 100% involved to 0% overnight. Then conversion rates crater. The founder jumps back in to save deals. Momentum is lost, and the transition that was supposed to take 1 quarter ends up taking 2 years and a lot of goodwill. Those are the 3 biggest mistakes. So let's look at what actually works. Here's the system. Step 1, sharpen and document your ICP before anything else. The first step, and it has to come first, is ICP clarity. To be clear, an ideal customer persona is not a broad definition of who could use your product. Rather, an ICP is a precise definition of who experiences the specific pain your product solves with enough urgency to buy. This means firmographics like company size, stage, tech stack, but also behavioral triggers and intent signals, things like who just raised a Series A, just added a VP of marketing, uses Salesforce plus HubSpot. These are signals that a company is in the buying window, and you need to document it in a format that an account executive or a marketer can use without asking you. Because the moment they have to ask you, you are again placing yourself in the position of being a single point of failure. Let me give you a real example of what happens when this step gets skipped. I was a CMO for a financial SaaS, seed stage, 18-month of product development, but no paying customers, just 5 users. When we assessed their voice of customer interviews, only 2 out of 18 people interviewed actually had a qualified need for the product at its current stage. So for all intents and purposes, they had been building for a customer who just wasn't there. To validate our product market fit hypothesis, we ran a $1,000 ads test using Google Ads so that we could validate the offer before investing more capital. We A/B tested an opt-out free trial versus a $1 trial. In 90 days of the $1,000 ads test, those initial 5 users had become 1,105 users. We achieved first revenue milestone within the first 2 months, and we knew exactly who was buying and why. And really, that's what ICP clarity gets you. You have to have it before you build anything else. Bain Capital Ventures calls it the MVP ICP handshake. You're not ready to scale sales until your product clearly solves a specific problem for a defined segment, not a broad market, a segment. Step 2 is build the pipeline infrastructure before you hire. Now, step 2 is building the pipeline engine. And this is where most founding teams get the sequencing backwards. They hire first and then they try to figure out the system. It needs to be the other way around. So pipeline infrastructure has 4 components: an outbound motion, ICP, targeted email sequences, LinkedIn, and phone. Multi-channel, not single touch. None of these channels alone is enough these days. And then you need to have an inbound foundation. Content and positioning that attracts your ICP buyers without the founder having to be in the room. According to SaaS Heroes, companies that scale past 10 million ARR generate 40% or more of their pipeline through inbound. But that doesn't happen overnight, I can guarantee you. It compounds over time, which means you need to start building it before you really need it. Third, you need to have a CRM with standardized pipeline stages and shared definition. For instance, MQL or marketing qualified lead means absolutely nothing if the sales team is just going to ignore it. So there needs to be alignment between these two teams. Lastly, you need to have measurements. You need to know where pipeline is coming from, what converts, and how long the cycle is. You can't hand off what you can't measure. Now here's where it gets really interesting. In 2026, you don't need a 3-person BDR team to run a serious outbound motion at all. I had a client in enterprise data and AI consultancy, bootstrapped, genuinely strong tech capabilities, who had 0 enterprise contracts. They were phenomenal in terms of technical capacity, but they were completely invisible. No LinkedIn presence, no positioning infrastructure, 100% reliant on referrals that honestly were just not showing up. Their channel strategy before we worked together was hope. We positioned them from we do data work to we solve enterprise data problems that cost millions. Launched a founder-led visibility strategy on LinkedIn, rebuilt the messaging framework to translate technical depth into business value, and within 4.5 months, they closed a $750,000 contract. The client saved $2.5 million a month, and the consultancy earned 30% of that savings, from 0 to 750K. Same expertise, completely different architecture around it. That is what pipeline architecture does when it's built right. The third step is the handoff itself. And this is where most founders either go too fast or stall out entirely. What the research and practitioner data both point to is that you should hire 2 account executives simultaneously, not 1. Here's the logic. If 1 rep fails, you don't know if it's the person or if it's the system. 2 reps running in parallel give you a real test of the system. If both fail, it's probably that the system needs work. If one succeeds and the other doesn't, then you have your answer. Give them a 90-day minimum ramp before drawing any conclusions. And be sure to document the founder's magic before stepping back. Founder's magic is things like what objections does the founder answer and how, what stories build the most trust, what's the exact language that gets the prospects to move. All of that needs to go into training materials, scripts, and positioning documents before the founder exits the process. The metric to track here is percentage of pipeline from non-founder sources. Your goal is 70% or above, and that should be achievable within 12 to 18 months. Expect this transition to take anywhere from 12 to 24 months in total. What I have seen is that founders who accept that timeline build companies at scale, whereas founders who try to get everything done within 90 days usually end up back in every deal within about 4 months. So back to where we started. Your pipeline has a single point of failure, and that single point of failure is you. The instinct is to fix that by hiring someone, and yes, you do need to hire people, but the hire only works if the system exists first. ICP defined and documented, pipeline infrastructure built and measured, handoff protocol designed before the transition begins. The data is pretty clear on this. Companies that build their systems first reach 5 million ARR in an average of 18 months faster than those that don't. And founder dependency above 60% of deals cuts your growth rate by more than half. The part that stands out the most to me about this is the fact that the founders who do this well, they don't stop being the best closer in the room. They stay the best closer. They just become the backup, called in for the deals that could change the company's trajectory, and trusted enough by their team to make that judgment call. Now that is the version of founder-led sales that actually scales. If you're running a B2B SaaS or AI company and you're somewhere in that 1 million to 10 million ARR range, and what I've just described in terms of the founder dependency, the unpredictable pipeline, the failed sales hire, if any of that sounds familiar, this is exactly the kind of engagement I take on. I come in as a fractional CMO and GTM engineer. I diagnose where the system is broken, build the GTM strategy and systems required to replace the founder, and then own the overarching strategy while the team executes. If that is what you need, there is a link in the description of this video to book a call with me directly. If you're not there yet, then just subscribe. I make videos like this specifically for technical founders and B2B operators who want operator level perspective like you've just seen here. See you in the next video.